Welcome to A Fine Time, The Nanny Revisited. This is a podcast about The Nanny, where we recap each episode and then discuss, sharing our own unique take on each episode. I'm Bernadette.
And I'm Debbie. Today we're talking about episode 74, Ship of France. As usual, we'll start with a brief summary of the episode. After being advised that she was going to dance on water with the man of her dreams, Fran books a room for her and Val on a Caribbean cruise. Maxwell, worried that Fran might actually meet someone and convince herself that it was fate, gives in to Brighton's demands for a big bar mitzvah-like to-do for his confirmation and has Niles book rooms for the entire family, plus Morty, Sylvia, Yetta, Niles, and Cece on the same cruise. On board, Sylvia introduces Fran to Steve Goodman, who asks her to be his partner in the Mambo contest. Even so, Fran spends a lot of her time with the Sheffields, and they share a marvelous day on shore and at the beach. Maxwell tries to express his concern that he's going to lose Fran forever to Niles, who totally blows him off to try to get Cece to accompany him to the slots since she has proven to be lucky for him while gambling. Cece agrees, but only if he takes Yetta off her hands as his roommate. Fast forward to the Mambo contest. Steve's nowhere to be found, and Maxwell observes that he can't be trusted and won't make Fran happy, to which Fran responds with an iconic line of, "I don't want to be happy, I want to be married." Turns out the reason that Steve wanted to sleep with Fran is because he didn't have a room. He's a stowaway. Mortified, Fran just wants to hide, but she's lured into participating in the dance contest anyway by the first place prize, a special singles cruise, and she competes with Maxwell as her date, or I guess partner. While the audience concludes that she did dance on water with the man of her dreams, Fran instead concludes that she wasted her money on the psychic. Bernadette, do you have anything you want to add?
Just a cheesy line that Steve Goodman, more like Steve Badman. Ha, ha.
Ah, ha, ha. Yeah.
Yep.
Would you like to take us to scene one then?
Yes. So we start where in the living room, kind of. Niles is in the foyer, kind of at the little round table where there's usually some type of flower arrangement. And Fran is coming in through the front door. She's dressed up, and it turns out she had just been to a top of the line bar mitzvah.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, they had flown in all the family. Oh, from where? Asks Niles. The ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there was a giant sequined hot air balloon that reminded Fran of a Jewish Wizard of Oz. And it's
Correct.
given her some ideas for Brighton's confirmation party. Because as we're walking in, as she's walking in the living room, we see Brighton sit, at the couch, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's on the
Well,
couch.
Maxwell and Cece walk in at that time. And Maxwell quickly tries to like snuff out any kind of elaborate plan Fran has by saying, after church, they're going to have an elegant supper. It's all arranged. And then he quickly goes to Niles. Quick, Niles, make the arrangements.
Right.
And Cece chimes in saying, of course, when she was confirmed, she agrees that less is more. When she was confirmed, they just lit a few candles. Um, oh, no, sorry.
No.
They did less is more. Niles chimes in and says, "Oh, did they just light a few candles and dance around a dead cat?"
Correct.
Which, of course, Cece is not too pleased with.
I don't
Brighton,
blame her.
yeah, Brighton, meanwhile, is saying, he's been studying with the priest for 3 years, so he wants a bar mitzvah. And he kind of leaves a little upset. Fran's trying to convince Maxwell. Brighton's the middle child. Don't you remember The Godfather? You don't want another Fredo Corleone on your hands. And she then proceeds to say, he already resents you for all the after school activities you have me schlep him around to. Oh, wait, that's me. And meanwhile, though, Cece, I guess, has picked, I think she has a brochure in her hands.
Yeah.
Because Cece starts to ask Fran about a cruise that apparently Fran is going on. Oh, look at this hunk of beef by the pool, and the chef will carve it up for you if you ask. And Cece kind of like is poking a little bit at Fran, like, don't you find it a bit degrading to be a single lady on a cruise? I mean,
Hmm.
you're trapped on a ship with all those marauding men, half naked, uh,
Covered
greased
in,
up,
yeah, covered in
and with
suntan
scented
oil.
oil. No way to escape. And like as she's saying this, she's like, oh wait, this doesn't sound too bad to Cece.
Exactly. They
And
can't
so she
escape her.
actually ends up taking that brochure. Good night, Maxwell, and leaves.
Hmm.
And then Maxwell starts reminiscing about his first transatlantic um, trip. And he had rented, I didn't put down the exact name of it, but suffice it to say, it was a really fancy room that you would have
Hmm.
a great room. So Fran says, well, I've got the Jules Verne cabin 20,000 leagues under the sea. So, of course, she doesn't have nearly, the fancy accommodations
Correct.
Maxwell did. And then Fran further goes on to say, well, her psychic told her that the man of her dreams would dance on water with her. And, but she goes on to say, too, like, then the psychic had some type of asthma attack that ate up the rest of her three $3.95 minute per minute call.
Yep.
So that's all she knows. Like she didn't get any additional details. And Maxwell's like, eh, again, he's skeptical and he's like trying to be like, like, do you really believe her? And this phone psychic. And Fran's like, oh, well, I had to go through a lot of clueless quacks until I found the one with that type of vision.
Correct.
Apparently, she had kept, dialing various psychics until she heard something she wanted to hear, right?
Correct.
So again, what we've kind of set up in this initial scene is that Brighton's going to be confirmed. They're wanting Fran and Brighton at least are on team, make it a bar mitzvah type of celebration. Um, and Fran has planned a cruise to find the man of her dreams that she can dance on water with. Is there
Hmm.
anything you'd like to add to this opening scene?
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
Would you like to take us to the office?
Sure. So we're now in the office and it's just Niles and Maxwell. And Maxwell also looks like he's looking at the cruise ship catalog or brochure, I guess. And he's concerned and he says to Niles that he can't believe that Miss Fine is going on a cruise just because some psychic told her she had a date with destiny. When you pay someone, they only tell you what you want to hear. And Niles said, absolutely, sir. You are so clever and witty and handsome. Oh, shut up, says Maxwell. You know, there is a chance she could run off. I mean, if she met someone and convinced herself it was fate, that would really tear the children up. Well, you know how attractive they find her. I mean, nurturing and caring. And by this
Mm-hmm.
point, he's gotten up from behind the desk, and now they're both like standing in front of the desk together. And so Niall says to him, why don't you tell her how they feel? Don't use any names, just convey their thoughts. Lost without you. Never leave. Love you so. And Max was like, are you completely mad? She'll think I'm talking about myself. And Niles is like, and now why didn't I think of that? You are
Mm-hmm.
so clever and witty and handsome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much where we leave them.
Yes.
Would
Um,
you like to add anything or take us into the hallway?
I'll take us to the hallway
Excellent.
where we have Fran and Brighton saying, confirmation is one of the most important events in a young man's life. And Fran cuts it, no, no, no. Where are the tears? Emotion. You're no Eric Menendez. And
Hmm.
Brian's like, Fran, I'm not an actor. I can't just cry on cue. And so Fran's like, try this on for size. Your father made some terrible investments and your trust fund gone. No, no. And she's like, that is good. Keep that. And they go into the office. Now I kind of counted this as one scene. I don't know if you broke it up at that point or not.
I kept it as one scene, so go for it.
And so they go in front of Maxwell's desk. Maxwell's there. I believe Niles is there too.
Yeah. No, he's not.
Not yet. Okay. So Maxwell's at his desk. Fran and Brighton are in front of it. And again, Brighton starts saying, confirmation was one of the most important events in a young man's life. And then he just goes, "Oh my God, your heel's going through my foot." Um, and Fran again is just like kind of disgusted with his inability to act. Do you think Eric would have said that to Leslie
Abramson.
Abramson? And anyway, so they start talking once again about this concept of a big party. And I think Brighton, does he leave? I'm
Um,
trying to think.
yeah. So basically, Maxwell gives in.
Hmm.
And Brighton's happy, and he leans his head on Fran's chest.
Ah, yes, 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 yes. But before then, before that happens, they try to sell it again. It's a big party. You're only 14 once. And then Fran makes the comment as for you could be 29 for 8 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell gives in, so Brighton goes in to give Fran a hug, and she's like, "Now get off me." Like, "I know what you're doing." And he goes, "Today I am a man." I didn't really care for that little
I didn't
exchange.
either. No, no. It
Because
gets
again, the thought being that he's like trying to feel her up or whatever.
or
Ugh.
examine her breasts more closely. Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Yes. So Brighton leaves, and Maxwell explains to Fran what it's going to be. He's going to take the entire family on a cruise. Fabulous. You're inspired by me. And where are you going? The Caribbean. Fabulous. Just like me. What, cruise line? Celebrity. Fabulous. Because that's the one that Fran's going on. Um, and then she's like, "Wait, like what?"
He says, "We're coming with you."
Yeah, no, yeah, because she's like, "That's exactly, and what I'm doing." And he's like, "I know, we're coming with you." And Fran's like not happy with that. And she's like trying to be like, "You bar mitzvah on land. We're desert people. We don't want to get wet. That's why we parted the Red Sea." And
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell's trying to reassure her, "I know you're looking for Mr. Right and will respect you, as will Morty, Sylvia, and Yetta." And it turns out he has invited her family. And she's like, "To my first sexy vacation in 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, so thoughtful of you," as she like smacking him.
Yep.
And and again, he's like, "Well, you said that Brighton should be surrounded by his family." And she smacks him. "I meant your family."
Mm-hmm.
So
That's when
so
Niles comes in.
yep, this is when Niles comes in. And Niles first starts, like saying, "Well, I've booked it for the fines and cease, Miss Babcock, as you requested," and he starts kind of taking Fran's side, and like, it's poor um Miss Fine, this is her vacation. And Maxwell cuts in, "You're coming in too, Niles." And he's like, I can't do it justice."
Uh,
He's like, "Caribe," and like is just super excited, like kind of dancing out the door. So yeah, they are like inviting themselves along to Fran's sexy vacation.
exactly.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that scene?
No, but I do want to just highlight my favorite line in that scene is, you're only 14 once. 29, you could be 8 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so scene 4, we're now on the cruise ship, and we see Fran is there and Yetta's there, and Yetta's holding on to the back of Fran's jacket, and she says to her, "Franny, I promise you won't even know I'm here." And Fran's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, maybe you could let go of my jacket then." And Yetta's like, "Then I'll fall." Um, And so Val comes down the gorgeous staircase and joins them. And she says that, Miss Babcock's out of her mind. I haven't seen a single one desperate single woman on this whole ship. And then Fran sees across the room, oh, gorgeous guy. How's my hair? She tries to like fix it. And Val's like, doesn't matter. He's mine, and races off.
Mhm.
And Fran, of course, wasn't able to go anywhere because Yetta's holding on to her jacket.
Mhm.
Um, and so over comes the captain to, greet them. And Fran introduces herself and she says, and she gestures to Yetta, and this is my birth control device.
Mhm.
And Yetta looks at the captain and says, oh, you look so different without your blue uniform and big handlebar mustache. And Fran's like, that's Captain Crunch, Yetta. And Yetta's like, I know who this is. And then she like lowers her voice and basically says, like, that picture on the box must have been taken years ago. And
Mm.
then Sylvia comes over and she has a little, plate of food and she says, darling, I don't think I'm going to make it. And Fran introduces her to the captain and points out to the captain that her mother is a little bit nervous about being so far out at sea. And so the captain jumps to what seems like the obvious conclusion that she's worried about the ship. Don't worry, the Century is one of the safest ships afloat. And Sylvia's like, don't lie to me. Have you ever run out of food? And before he can actually answer her question, Sylvia chases a cart full of food, and Yetta has grabbed onto her jacket now and follows. So Fran's alone for just a moment when Val rejoins her, and Fran wants to know what happened with Mr. Gorgeous. And Val's like, ugh, he's gay. Look at him making out with that girl. Wait until she finds out.
Mhm.
And Fran's like, you know what? I don't know why I'm looking to pick up men anyway. The psychic said the man of my dreams is going to find me. Right on cue, enter Maxwell and the children. Maxwell says, Miss Fine, I found you. And the children all start talking and he tries to shush them. Children, children, please, Miss Fine is on vacation. Let's not bother her. And Maggie's like, Dad, you just dragged us all over the ship looking for her. And Maxwell's like, to tell her I'm not going to bother her. And
Mhm.
Fran's like, listen, kids, if you need me, I'm on the plaza deck in 5102. And I think the girls are like, oh, I'm in 5103. And Brighton chimes in, I'm in 5104. And
Mhm.
Fran turns to Maxwell, and we can tell that she's less than thrilled with this arrangement. You're just so full of surprises.
Well, first she says, "That's fabulous" to
Right, to
them.
the kids. Right.
And we've heard her say that's fabulous multiple times this episode.
Yeah. And this time it was definitely more sarcastic than previously.
Mhm.
Um, so anyway, so then enter Sylvia, who's also who's being held on to by Yetta, and she's also asking Yetta to let go. And Yetta says, but then I'll fall and have to spend the entire cruise in our room.
It's
So,
Cece, not Sylvia.
oh, I'm sorry. That was
Mhm.
actually Yetta who says that to Cece. Thank
Mhm.
you. And Cece stops and says, what do you mean, our room? And Niles explains, well, you see, the thing was, when I made the arrangements, there were only 2 rooms left. Well, I couldn't share with a woman, so I was forced to take the suite. And Cece's like, well, why didn't you give us the suite? And he's like, I tried, but, and he gestures towards Yetta, who chimes in, what do we need with a wet bar and a jacuzzi? A couple of old maids like us.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, needless to say, this trip is not going the way anyone expected.
No, Cece's face says it all.
Uh huh. Is there anything else you want to add, or do you want to take us to the next scene on deck?
I'll take us to the deck. So we see that Brighton and Maggie, are in their swimsuits on deck chairs, and Fran and Val are kind of coming up from behind, and Fran makes the comment, "Oh, look at those two good-looking 17-year-olds, playing ping pong or something.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder which one looks better, the boy or the girl." And of course, that like gets Maggie and Brighton's attention. They immediately get up and go off. And Fran's like, okay, let's take their chairs. So she and Val settle in. And Fran asks Val if she's kind of looked up the dining room menu. And uh, Val says, okay, for late seating, we have a doctor across with an accountant on the side. For the early course, it comes with two retired couples, but we're literally on top of the seafood bar. They kind of look at each other and they both say at the same time, seafood bar.
Yep.
Again, Fran talks about, Brand of her dreams, dancing on water. And Val's kind of like, "Ugh," psychics. I had a psychic tell me that I'd be single, living with my parents, and 10 pounds heavier. Please. I'm at least 20 pounds heavier.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Sylvia and Yetta come into view. And again, Yetta's, I think, still kind of doing the same old holding on thing.
Yep.
And Sylvia mentions that Morty is swimming in the pool, and we cut to just like a toupee floating in water. And she's
Yep.
like yelling out, "Did you forget something?" And again, Sylvie's kind of also into the whole like matchmaking thing because, she's like, "Oh, like handsome man coming, arch your back." And we get introduced to Steve Goodman or
Mm-hmm.
that man.
Yep.
And
Not to be confused with that man. It's
yes,
a D,
right.
not a T. D is in
Exactly.
dog, not as in Tommy.
Exactly. Um, and Steve's like, chatting up Fran. He heard from her, her mother that she graduated Hillcrest High 5 years ago with his sister. And she goes, Fran goes along with it. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about that. And it turns out that there is a Mambo contest Saturday night. And, Steve tells her about it. And he's like, "Can you keep up with me?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course." And
Well, no. She turns
oh,
to Val and says, "You hear that? He's asking me to dance on water."
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then there's like something about don't break.
And he says, "Don't tell me you're with someone. Don't break my heart."
Oh, don't break my heart. And she's like, "No, I'm as free as a bird. I'm completely unattached." And then, of course, this is the moment Maxwell comes up.
Yep.
"Ah, there you are. Did we remember to set the alarm before we left the house?"
Mm-hmm.
And again, like Fran's frustrated. There are 2,000 people on this ship. And, she's like, of course, he hones in on her. So Sylvia makes a comment to Maxwell: "The white chases are for loading and unloading potential husbands only."
Exactly. I love that line.
Yeah. And so, you know, Max was like, "Well, don't mind me." And he like walks because he was kind of behind or in the between the chairs. And he stands up and he walks in between to walk ahead of them. "Don't mind me." He's just going to go, swim like 100 laps or whatever. And Yetta pulls, says, "Oh, your trunk's on backward." And she kind of pulls, there's a string from the back that's like sticking out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and she pulls on it. And of course, like Maxwell gets a little embarrassed and like goes off. And Fran says, "She's sharp as a tack." And then Yetta says, "It's hard to believe I have a granddaughter over 30." And both Sylvia and Fran say, "She's senile."
Exactly.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that scene?
No.
Okay. Can you take us to the gambling part? The
Yeah.
casino part of the cruise?
Casino. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yes. So Niles is at a gambling table. Unfortunately, thank you. Like
Hmm.
I don't gamble, so I don't know what any of the games are called.
I don't either, but
Hey, at least you picked it up from somewhere in the ether. I was just like, he's at a table. Um,
Mhm.
and note that he's dressed for the occasion.
Yes.
I think this is one of those times to mention that he's in a tuxedo.
Hmm. Yep.
And so he's standing there and he's rolling the dice, and Cece comes over and she's also dressed for the occasion in a beautiful white gown. And she says, "Hello, Niles. Now I knew you were a high roller. Those Bermuda shorts you wore to the pool were a huge gamble." And
Hmm.
he snarkily replies, "This from a woman whose flip flops could transport refugees from Cuba." And so he plays, and you know, uh, with Cece there, he rolls the dice, and he does well. And so he says to her something along the lines of, Looks like my luck is changing, and he waves her off. She walks away. He throws the dice again, and that's when he gets craps. And she comes back, and she notes that he has 2 chips left. You know, come on, Papa needs a new pair of oven mitts.
Mhm.
And so he throws the dice and he wins. Um,
Mhm.
and so he looks at her and he's
Yes.
like, "Are you a good
Wide-eyed.
witch?" Yeah,
No, no,
it's
because he does it. He's a winner. Then he looks at her and
right,
throws it again without even looking where he's throwing it, and he's a winner again.
right. And so he looks at her, sort of confused, sort of befuddled, sort of like not really sure like what he's looking for, but he asks, "Are you a good witch or a bad witch?" And she
Mhm.
looks back at him and makes great eye contact. And
Mhm.
that's pretty much it.
Yes.
Would you
And
like to
then
take us,
yeah,
off the ship?
so we have a montage and it's set for the feeling hot 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 song. So we get little clips of the whole family on a paddle boat, Brighton buried up to his head in the sand and Fran coming over to apply more sunscreen. We
Mhm.
see the family snorkeling. We see Fran taking off her shorts in front of Maxwell on the beach so that she's just in her swimsuit to go out to the kids. And then he also gets up and so the family's all playing in the water. Then they're walking down the beach and like they're all together, but then like Brighton and Maggie run off and then Gracie runs off. So it's just like uh, Maxwell and Fran walking together. We
Mhm.
see them taking pictures and some guy like stealing their camera. We see Fran playing a little instrument with a local. They're shopping, and then the sun is setting. So it's like a cute little montage of all the stuff they've done together.
Mhm.
Was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Um, so the one thing I'll add is, so you're right that Fran takes her shorts off in front of Maxwell, but what happened was, like, the kids were in the water and they wave at Fran, and so she gets up, takes the shorts off to join them, and Maxwell, watching her, is like, "I should go too," and he, like, quickly puts his book aside, waves at the kids as if they were waving to him, and follows. And then
Yeah.
we see them playing more in the water, throwing each other, and it was
Mhm.
just it was a very nice it was a very nice montage.
Mhm.
Uh,
Okay.
do you wanna do the rest of the following scene, or do you want me to?
Up to you.
Um, I I don't care. I can do it. So, we now see Fran and Max sitting together. They've changed. They're, sitting on the ship, and they're talking about how beautiful the sunset was. And Fran says to him, next to candles, sunset is the most youthful lighting. And so they're talking, and we have a lot to. Fran explains that we have a lot to celebrate. Brighton's becoming a man, and I'm getting one. And Max was like, "Ah, Steve, nice chap, nice chap. Strange how one nostril is larger than the other. Throws off the
Mhm.
whole symmetry of his face. If it doesn't bother you," and of course, Steve has come over by this point. He's like kissing her neck. And Fran's like, "I could live with a weird nostril myself."
Mhm.
Um, and so, the men greet each other, and everyone stands up, and Maxwell says, "I should leave you two alone to get to your dinner." And Steve, you know, seemingly trying to be the bigger man, says, "Maxwell, you're welcome to join us." And Maxwell starts to say, "Oh, well," and Fran looks at him with this glare, like,
Oh,
"Don't even
it
think
is
about it."
furious glare.
And he's like, "Oh, well, that sounds terribly inconvenient. Couldn't possibly." And so Fran looks back at Steve, all smiles again. "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Well, actually," and she turns back to him with an even, like, deadlier glare. And he's like,
Mhm.
"Absolutely sure. Have fun." And so they
Yeah.
walk off. And Maxwell goes up to the bar, like behind where they had been sitting, and that's where Niles is. And he's like, "Niles, what do you think? I mean, if she really has met the man of her dreams, I may have lost her forever." And Niles looks at him and says, "Well, that's life." And he gets up quickly to join Miss Babcock. "Hello, Miss Babcock. I don't know if it's the sea air." And she's like, "What do you want?" He's like, "20 minutes at the slots, my baby by my side." And she's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, this is going to cost you big." And he's like, I thought you were duty free on the high seas. I'm sorry, old habits, my beauty. And he picks up her hand and kisses it, 3 times. Um, we'll name your price. And she smiles, pauses for a second, and says, 95 pounds. British? Asks Niles. And she's like, no, Yiddish. And she moves Yetta's hand from her jacket or her dress or whatever over to Niles. And she adds, meet your new roommate. To which Yetta says, hi, Neil.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then Cece, offers Niles her arm, and they go off to the casino.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's Cece in the front, the Niles with Yetta trailing behind because she's holding on to Niles.
Yep. Um, the one thing that I want to note in this scene that I haven't already covered is that Maxwell is still wearing his wedding ring. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, I did not.
Okay. I just wanted to note that because to me it seems strange since we've talked about that previously that he took it off when he was working with Sydney Mercer, and now it's back on. So,
Gotcha.
all right.
Yeah.
Would you like to take us to the next scene?
Yes. So there's upbeat music as, we have dancers dancing around. And we cut to the table, and at the table is Niles, Yetta, and Gracie. And a waiter comes over asking, if they want a drink. Yetta grabs one of the drinks, here, dear, trying to give it to Gracie. And Gracie's like, I'm not allowed to have any drinks with the little umbrellas. So Yetta takes out the umbrella and says to Niles, oh, so like the rum she's not worried about, doesn't care about. It's the
Right.
umbrella where she, draws the line. And Niles takes the drink from from Yetta and drinks it.
Right.
And yeah, and then Yetta's like, well, if I store tonight, wake me or nudge me.
Mm-hmm.
They're new roomies.
And did you
Well,
catch what Niles did after that?
probably take a big drink.
Yeah, so he took the drink away from Yetta to drink it. Exactly.
Hmm. So, I don't know how you counted this, but the celebrity, like the announcer guy, thinks the celebrity dancers.
Mm-hmm.
Did you count this all as one scene?
I did.
Okay, I did too. Just wanted to make sure. So, and he's asking everybody to applause for the celebrity dancers and to Benji Easterman as Barbara Streisand. And he makes this comment, if you're not heading to the men's restroom, you could swear it was her. And then he transitions into the whole Mambo contest. Did you count this as part of this as well?
I
When he
did, but I
shifts?
can take over whenever you want me to.
Okay. Well, I counted as well, but basically,
Perfect. Go for it.
Fran, yeah, Fran and Maxwell are at a table, and and Fran's kind of standing, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. She
And
is.
she's like dressed up in just briefly a black dress that has kind of like fringe on the top and stuff. She's like, "Where's Steve?" And Max was kind of like, "You see, he's not gonna show. You can't trust him. He won't make you happy." And this is where she responds, "I don't want to be happy. I want to be married." And
Mm-hmm.
then Steve does come. Oh, Steve. And he's like, I'm going to have to sit this out. And another man comes up to Steve, like, you got to go. And Val, of course, walks in at that time, kind of walks through. What did I tell you? They're all gay. And she
Yep.
keeps going. And Fran, though, is trying to look for answers. And the crew guy is like, this man's a stowaway. And, Fran, of course, is like, what? And as Steve's being let off by the crew member, he's apologizing to Fran, and he says, I'll pay you back all the sundries I charged to your room.
Mm-hmm.
Fran kind of has this revelation to Maxwell. That's why he wanted to sleep with me, because he didn't have a room.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, like uh, Maxwell's trying to like kind of comfort her, but she's like, I'm so humiliated. I just want to be left alone. And of course, at that point, the spotlight hits her, and they're announcing couple number one. Miss Fran Fine and Steve Goodman. And Maxwell says to her, Miss Fine, may I be the man of your dreams for this one dance? And she goes, I don't think I could. And then the announcer goes on to say, first prize, a special singles cruise on the galaxy. She's like, all right, twirl me, pull me, dip me, mambo, 2, 3, 4. And then we cut to them actually doing their little dance.
Mm-hmm.
And they, like they do it well, do a successful pose at the end. And then she says, Mr. Sheffield, the psychic told me that I would dance with the man of my dreams on water. What a waste of money that was. And that's
Yep.
the episode. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, no,
Yep.
I'm good. Is there anything you want to talk about holistically before we get into the shticks?
Hmm.
I have one if you need a moment to think.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious. So this is, I think, the second time we've seen Fran and Maxwell dance together. The first was in the episode Kinderwelt Days. That's the one where they go to her big camp reunion and she's wearing the tight black dress and Maxwell says, let's really give them something to look at. Do you
Hmm.
do you do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Which dance did you like better?
Well, I don't recall that one as well because it's
Okay.
been a while. Do you have a preference between the two?
The other one.
Okay.
The other one because here it was a mambo and like they clearly danced well together. But the other one it was a slow dance and they also had the whole floor to themselves, but they were because people couldn't turn away from them, not because like they were supposed to be watched. I like that one much better. It was more romantic than this mambo contest nonsense.
Hmm.
So that was the thing I wanted to talk about. Did you think of anything?
No, I guess we'll just jump into favorite fashion.
Sounds good. Did you have any favorite fashion?
Um, I don't know. Like,
There was a lot here.
there was because even just in the first scene where Fran's coming from the bar mitzvah, like she has a nice white dress on. Um,
Would you like to describe it?
so like I believe you're gonna have to help me a little bit. It's floor length, right?
Yeah, it's floor length. I would have called it cream, but white is fine.
Mm-hmm.
It has like spaghetti straps
Hmm.
and
But like a little thicker, right?
um thicker
Not.
than some other ones we've seen, but not like it wasn't like an inch or bigger. It was still
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, half an inch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she had her hair up and she had white heels on. It was sequiny. It was a nice looking dress.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
the reason I want to stress that like the straps weren't that thick is because I want to be able to distinguish it from the white dress that Cece was wearing in the casino. Because Cece has also a white but not sequined, um, what looks like a floor length gown, um, and she has thicker spaghetti straps, or
Mm-hmm.
I guess just straps.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so I could tell that it was definitely was a fancy bar mitzvah, right?
Oh yeah,
If you were, if she was wearing that to it.
absolutely.
Um,
Which of
oh,
I'm
go ahead.
curious, did you like Fran's bar mitzvah dress better than Cece's casino dress, or Cece's dress better than Fran's?
Hmm. I'm trying to visualize CC's, um,
In fairness, we
because
don't see as much of Cece's as we saw of Fran's.
it's kind of covered by the table, and she kind of goes
Exactly.
in and out. Um, I mean, I think CC looked nice, right?
She did. I agree.
So, I mean, as between the two styles, like personally, I'd probably be wearing more like something along the lines of what CC was than
Hmm.
Fran. What about you?
I liked Fran's better.
Hmm. I mean, it was nice.
I mean, but I wouldn't wear either because I'd be too afraid I'd spill something on it. It's just
Yeah,
such a large canvas.
yeah. So, you already mentioned too, Niles was looking dashing at the craps table.
That he did. That he did. Um, there was actually a lot of white in this episode.
Yeah, except for the mambo dress, which was black.
Correct. What did you think of the mambo dress?
Well,
And I
I
guess
thought it was interesting if she didn't know about that competition ahead of time, because it's Steve who kind of tells her about it, right?
mhm.
Invites her to be a part of it. Like that dress seems like something used for dance, right? Because of the long fringe at the top.
And the long fringe also goes throughout the dress. It goes to the
Yeah.
bottom too.
Yeah, but it's like in layers. It's not like one continuous
Mhm.
thing.
Exactly.
So it looks like it's made to be danced in. And so it's like, okay, so does she just bring that anyway? Or like, did she acquire it somehow on the ship? Or like, how did she even get her hands on that dress?
Well, she was told by the psychic that she was going to dance on water with the man of her dreams, so
Ah,
she dressed accordingly. She packed accordingly.
I guess. I guess that must be it. Yeah.
Um, I didn't really like her mambo dress. You're right; it is something that looks like it's made for dancing, but it had a weird halter top, and I wasn't crazy about the fringe.
Yeah. And for
Um,
clarification, like for competitive dance.
yes, not like I'm gonna go to a.
Like
I
club
don't even
or whatever. Yeah.
thank you. I'm like I don't even know how to end the sentence anymore. Um, what I thought was interesting is the first scene we have on the ship. Most of the characters are wearing white in some form. So like Fran is wearing a white um skirt with a
Oh,
white jacket and a white hat. Sylvia
yeah.
is also wearing a white suit. Yetta's wearing red, white, and blue. Like she has a red blazer or like a tangerine. Yeah, I think red blazer with white trim, blue and white striped pants, and a white shirt. Um, Maxwell, I think, is wearing white pants. Brighton has a white shirt. Gracie's wearing a white dress. Maggie's wearing a dress that has a little bit of white in it.
Hmm.
Um, the only one who seems to have missed the boat, ha ha ha, is Val, who's wearing a floral print with an orange hat.
Hmm. Well, and I was gonna say, you reminded me, I liked Fran's outfit, that white outfit.
Really?
Yeah.
Even with
Like
the hat?
without the hat would be
Oh,
better.
okay, thank you. That's the part of the outfit that I was just like, that's a questionable choice.
Yeah, no, without the hat.
Um, Oh, and I should also mention Cece was wearing a black and white polka dot dress in that
Hmm.
scene. So like everyone's wearing white. Anyway,
Interesting.
um, but my favorite outfit that Fran wears is actually the dress she's wearing when they're on shore. It's like a color block dress. It has like black trim. The top is like white, then a strip of yellow, then a strip of red, then a strip of blue. That's my favorite of her outfits in this episode.
Hmm.
Did you have any fashion you didn't like?
Um, Nothing immediately comes to mind. Did you?
I did not like the outfit Fran was wearing when she actually met Steve Goodman. It was
Like her
like,
swimsuit outfit?
is that what you like? It looks like it's a bikini top and matching sequin pants.
Yeah.
I didn't find it flattering.
Hmm.
Um, which is interesting because in that scene, like Val is wearing like a hot pink shirt and like I think matching pants and jacket that are black with pink flowers. I thought Val looked so much nicer in that scene. Like her outfit was so much better, which is
Hmm.
a rare thing for me to say.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Um, yeah, like I know just cutting back to that scene where they're on the beach. I don't know if we emphasize that like when Fran's taking off her shorts to get in her like to, go into the water, like it seems to me like Maxwell's really checking her out, right?
yes, he is. And oh, I did like her bikini for the record. It was black and white.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't wear it, but she looks fantastic in it.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I think it's worth noting that like it was a halter top bikini, I think. So it was black with white trim and anyway. So it matched her black and it matched her white headband, which she wore with the color block dress I described before. So
Hmm.
she really organized that very nicely.
Yep. Any other fashion you wanted to discuss?
No, I don't have to comment on the other things she wore, but yeah,
Okay. So then, notable New Yorkers. I feel like to some extent, I don't feel like there was as many as we've had in some of the past episodes.
I
Um,
agree.
but we start off with like a reference to the Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
Um, she, of course, has the Jewish Wizard of Oz, given it was a bar mitzvah.
Hmm.
I did have a quick question. Do you think the title of this episode is a reference to anything in particular? Because I
I
didn't catch any
I
reference, and I
I
just
didn't
wanted.
think so,
Okay,
but
I
now I'm.
didn't think of anything. We have a reference to The Godfather and
Hmm.
Fredo Corleone, who's apparently the middle child.
Yep.
Um, I've never actually watched The
Me neither.
Godfather. um, we have the Jules Verne reference.
Yeah.
He's
So Jules Verne,
hmm
he was a French poet, novelist, and playwright who wrote um, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Journey to the Center of the Earth, and Around the World in 80 Days. And that's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
hmm and then like
So there was also the reference to the
there.
20,000 Leagues Under the
Okay.
Sea
Yeah,
directly,
yeah,
which was an 1870 science fiction book that was, again, written by Jules Verne. It was originally serialized and illustrated, and that's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
yeah. We have another reference to Eric Menendez.
One of the Menendez brothers, who in 1996 were convicted of murdering their parents, according to our
I'm
friends at
assuming
Wikipedia.
I'm assuming Leslie Abramson was like the prosecutor or the
Uh,
defense attorney.
she was the criminal defense attorney known for her role in defending Lyle and Eric Menendez, who, by the way, according to Wikipedia, our friends at Wikipedia, was born in Flushing, Queens.
Oh,
So
well,
I like the symmetry of that.
hmm I'm assuming the whole ship line was made up, or was there
Carnival.
actually a celebrity back then who
Uh,
was
so
flying?
so she referenced that she was going. It was Carnival
I
and
thought she
Carnival.
said they said celebrity
So
because
first,
Carnival's a thing.
yes. So Carnival is a cruise line that was founded in 1972, whose tagline is, and I quote, "the world's most popular cruise line." That's according to our friends at um, Carnival.com. Then there's a reference to the Century, which is the title of the ship. And so here's where the celebrity part comes in. And so I quote, "Celebrity Century is a Century class cruise ship owned and operated by Celebrity Cruises. Its maiden," and that's the end of the quote, "its maiden voyage was in December 1995. It accommodates 1,814 passengers, and in 2006 it underwent a $55 million refurbishment." And that's according to our friends at shiptechnology.com.
hmm
So all of the cruise names were real.
Okay. Yetta's reference to Captain Crunch.
And I quote, "Captain Crunch is a product line of corn and oat cereals introduced in 1963 and manufactured by the Quaker Oats Company, a division of PepsiCo, since 2001." And that's according to our friends at PepsiCo.com.
hmm Um, and then I'm trying to see. Did you have?
I have a few.
Okay.
So A&P, that's a grocery store we've talked about previously. St. Thomas is the self-proclaimed, and I quote, "shopping capital of the Caribbean," and quote, "due to its duty-free goods, it is part of the U.S. Virgin Islands." And according to visitusvi.com, it has the second oldest synagogue in the Western Hemisphere.
Hmm.
I've got two more.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
there's another Barbara Streisand reference.
that's one of them.
hmm
And the only other one I had is Fran makes the comment to Maxwell when he shows up while she's talking to Steve Goodman, "What do I have, a LoJack stuffed in my bra?" And LoJack is, and I quote, "the only stolen vehicle recovery system integrated with law enforcement." And that's according to our friends at LoJack.com. And then I'm out.
Okay. So Yiddish cop.
So bar mitzvah, we've talked about it before. It is the marking the transition from childhood into adulthood. It means son of commandments. Happens when a boy turns 13. Fran makes the comment, "We're desert people." That's a reference to the Passover story in which the Israel, or I should say, the tail end of the Passover story. So after the Jews were freed from slavery in Egypt, the Israelites wandered the desert for 40 years. The reference to "that's why we parted the Red Sea" is also part of the Passover story. One of the miracles performed by Moses, with obviously God's help, was he parted the Red Sea to escape the Egyptian army while fleeing slavery. Tuchus, we've talked about it before, it means butt. And finally, the seafood bar would not be kosher, as I've said before, because
Yep.
seafood, unless it has fins and scales, is considered treif and not fit for human consumption under the rules of kashrut.
Hmm.
Then I'm out.
Okay. So then 90s nostalgia.
Um, Go ahead.
Sorry. So to some extent, post COVID, the whole cruise line, I know they're still going, but there's definitely a hit to it. What do you think
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, the disposable camera that gets stolen while they're on shore.
Why would you steal a disposable camera?
Oh, actually, no, I take it back. That one was not a disposable. That was a regular camera. There was a
Yeah.
separate disposable camera. Sorry.
Yeah, because I was like, why would you steal a disposable camera? I'm just gonna steal your pictures.
Right, exactly. I mean, same question with a real camera. I mean, I guess you could reuse it, but
Hmm.
like doesn't seem useful.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I thought Val's floral attire on the ship looked very 90s with the
A
orange
lot of
hat.
the attire in this episode seemed very 90s.
Hmm. Agreed.
Well, do you have anything else?
I don't think we had old cars this week because we were mostly on a
No.
cruise ship.
So an old cruise ship.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Um,
because like the decor of the cruise ship seemed dated as well.
I sure. I
Like the
don't know.
lobby, the first, like where the staircase and everything was.
Okay, a little bit, yeah. I guess now that you say that, that makes sense.
But yeah, I didn't really have much else.
All right, shall we jump to future fun?
Yes.
So, as I think I mentioned last week, next week we're going to accompany Fran and Max to Paris. So, something to be excited about. Um, we sort of started to see here that Niles has a bit of a gambling problem,
Ooh.
and it's going to get worse when the Sheffield family goes to Las Vegas. Um, and I will note here that Cece was Niles' lucky charm here, but she does also prove to be his lucky charm later, and she eventually gives him more than he ever dreamed of. Um,
Whoa.
I won't say more. This is not the only sexy vacation that Fran tries to take. There's an episode called Hurricane Fran where she and Val go to an island because, um, you know, she wants to get away from Maxwell and the kids, and they end up getting struck by a freak hurricane.
Of course.
Exactly, of course. Um, and then the last one I'll mention is there's an episode that we're going to see. I think it's season 4. Yeah, it's season 4, where Maxwell learns that Fran has a tattoo on her body, and he becomes obsessed with seeing it
Whoa.
because the way he like the the way she dresses that's what a couple inches like that he hasn't seen. It turns out it's on her tush, and you know she learns that he's obsessed with trying to see her tattoo, and so she connives a way to get the family to go on a trip to Bermuda. Um but and she buys a string bikini, and she asks Val, do you think Mr. Sheffield can see my tattoo in this? And Val's like, he could see your liver in that. But so even though both of them are like actively trying to like fall into this pattern, Fran ultimately doesn't put on her bathing suit because Gracie's afraid of everything changing.
Aw.
So something else for us to look forward to in just a couple months.
Mhm.
So I think I'll leave the future fun there. Um,
Okay.
episode rating time.
Yes. And it's my turn to go first this week.
I always love it
Um,
when it's your turn to go first.
yes. So as a reminder to our listeners, we rate each episode from 1 to 5 lipsticks, with 5 being the best. Um, a little bit like whose line is it in a way the points are made up and it doesn't really matter because we make the rules so we can always adjust it later, right?
Right.
Um, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and give this episode a 5. Again, there were some things, some comments wasn't really a fan of, but overall it was fun to kind of see uh, Niles and Cece's interactions. Obviously, Fran and Maxwell as well. We kind of, as an audience, see more of like Maxwell's interest and like fear of losing Fran.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, so yeah. Um, what about you?
So, it's kind of funny. I like this episode, but I don't like it as much as last week or next week. And so I'm sort of struggling. Like I want to give it I was going to give it a 4 before we started, but I really hate to break my streak of giving it a 5, and the fact that you gave it a 5, makes me feel bad about not giving it a 5, but
Debbie, it's your own
I
score.
know it's mine. I know it's all mine. And as you point out, the points don't matter anyway. So I'm gonna split the difference and give it a 4.5.
Okay.
Just because next week, and like again, compared to next week and last week and a few of the weeks before, I don't like this episode as much. So I can't I can't justify giving it a 5.
Okay.
Um, so yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I don't believe so.
All right. Well, that's all we have for you today. We hope you had a fine time with us as we revisited The Nanny. Join us next week when we'll be discussing episode 75, A Pup in Paris.
If you would like to reach us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at Nanny Revisited. You can also send us email at afinetimenannyrevisited@gmail.com. Have a great week.